Hey everyone, my name's Matt, as you're about to find out, and we're going to spend 10 minutes today on learning a little bit about the best practices of how to approach headless search and browse when you're doing an e-commerce implementation. You'll learn that headless is a good practice, but it in itself has trade-offs and it lives within an environment. You'll learn that search and browse covers a massive amount of any application, and you'll learn 3 ways of thinking about headless when it comes to e-commerce and search and browse to help you optimize the trade-offs you're making. So let's begin. So you know a little bit about who's speaking to you today. I'm Matt, I go by Matthew Foyle, that's my full name. It's useful to remember, like everyone, I'm a human being too, we all are, it's our common denominator, so it's nice to remember sometimes. And I love APIs, I've been at API companies my entire career. Don't see that changing anytime soon. It's super fun, from Twilio to Molten to Algolia. Honestly, yeah, I can't wait to share these learnings with you. We need to start off with a framework, of course, and our frame of reference is that we're talking about an architecture. Headless, that's an architecture. It's a series of choices. These choices are compatible and that they create a kind of system in which your technology can work. And within this system, like we said, there are a lot of choices and each choice is a trade-off, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't really be a choice. You could do everything. And implicit in these trade-offs are very good things. Headless exists in an environment right now which makes it very successful. You come from an idea where before everything was all in one, whereas now we exist in an environment which supports the idea of best-in-breed solutions, decoupling the front end, that's the UI, from the back end, essentially headless, allowing people more freedom in design, choice of services, better competition, and good things all around. So I would encourage you to think about going headless, as it were, as a concept or architecture. But the point here when it comes to an e-commerce website is to help you with the search and discovery or browse parts of it so that you can optimize it as best as you can. Now there are 3 parts. The first is data, then we have design and deploy. Let's keep going. We don't have much time, and let's look at data first of all. It truly is half the battle here. Imagine you're decoupling everything. And you've lots of little services doing many things, which is fantastic. They can innovate each little piece at its own pace. But remember what flows between them. Between those boxes in the diagrams, it's data. And data needs to reach your front end, it needs to reach your analytics. All different kinds of data needs to go everywhere. And so now you're synchronizing services. You need to be very careful of those arrows. And make sure you know what goes between them. Make sure you know what's accessible and where. And this will help you a lot, both now and in the future, especially with search and browse. I'll give you a couple of examples. Category pages, right? I'll show you Blissim very quickly. Blissim is an e-commerce company. They have a search bar, of course, but they also have category pages like this. And these category pages were built using Algolia. It looks a lot like a search results page because it is. It's an empty query with a filter. That means Algolia needs to know exactly what category each product is in and the taxonomy of categories. So in order to make your life easier, you need to make sure that your product PIM system or e-commerce system can export that information correctly in real time. Also, think about stock. When you have ranking and learning, you may want to incorporate, obviously not filtering in things which have no stock. So Algolia as a search system needs to know that. Can your commerce system tell us in real time? Do you need to know exactly when a stock changes in single increments? Probably not, right? Maybe we just need to know in or out of stock. But not quite, because ranking might be informed by things which have high stock or low stock. Now your e-commerce system might not have a representation of that, so that's going to have to live in the arrow, you see. And so think about what transformations need to happen in the arrow. Are they manageable? Are they easy? Can you change them when you need to? And that could be a good example, changing an attribute from a Boolean true or false to high, low, or no, so that you can incorporate it into ranking. And so I'd encourage you just to stop for a moment and think about that, and make sure you think about the arrows especially. That's where the complexity lives in this kind of architecture. And search and discovery will need a lot of data in order to work. It can learn a lot from that data, and Algolia certainly helps you a lot with getting it, but be aware of those arrows. Secondly, we have, of course, design. Within design, it's one of the great things about headless. You have a ton of freedom. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. And I'm showing you here some research by Baymard to illustrate that no matter how much freedom and flexibility you have, you still need to put in effort to make this stuff good. You see Amazon on the right here? It's just about good in their scale, and Baymard are really good at these guidelines. These are very official, concrete, applicable guidelines for UX. And these are, I think, 58 of the biggest e-commerce sites in the US and EMEA. So Amazon's there. Just if you're interested, Wayfair is a little bit to the left. It's the one right beside it. But look how sparse that good part is. Everything is about middling. And it just goes to show no matter what architecture you choose, you'll have choices, but achieving good UX is hard. So don't underestimate, a good design team and putting in the effort. But obviously that's not all. I would really encourage you to, before you look at best practice, put the journey first, because that's how you optimize this architecture. It opens you up to UX and different choices on the front end, and you can then think about the journey and go backwards from that to how you want to design things, which is just something we weren't able to do fully before. We had to think forwards from what the technology was capable of. I'll show you Mammut as a great example. It's one of my favorite experiential websites, where instead of filters and a search results page, it starts you off with something like this. What do you want to do? What gender are you? Within climbing, what kind of, equipment or clothing are you looking for? And here we have straight away the single climbing shoe that we needed. Then you have your filtering and sorting. But it's very visual, very experiential. Of course, this works for them well because they have this kind of catalog. But I would really encourage you to not get caught in the classical search and search results. Algolia can power tons of different experiences. And if you adopt Headless, you'll have the ability to think about it and design whatever you want, whatever experience you want. Is it a virtual salesperson? Is it very visual? Is it the classic search results? That's okay too. But yeah, you have the freedom to think about this now. And so the last element to this is for you to think about when you choose your APIs, those plug into the Headless environment very easily. It's what you should be choosing. Try to choose APIs which also help you do those UX things very well, easily, but without losing the freedom. A good example of that is Algolia's Instance Search, which is an open source library to help you with UI design. You control the UI, but it makes the logic and best practice very easy. It's not the API, it lives on top, it's open source, it's maintained by us, but it's there to help you and make it easy. So look for tools that have those technologies or auxiliary partners and services, which help make best practice easy when you have all this freedom to do whatever you want. Now lastly, alluding to and calling back to the 2 points earlier, because of this space where you get to choose best of breed solutions, plug them in, they're decoupled so they're not fully dependent on each other and it's easy to switch. This creates a great environment for competition. And here we have some. It's quite good. This is for a commerce kind of landscape. In fact, a headless one. Look at all the choice you have there. That's amazing. And these things change all the time. What was there 5 years ago won't be there 5 years from now. The beauty of headless is you can adapt as you go easily. But I'm just making you aware, you will have a lot of overwhelming choice paralysis. Look at the API landscape as a whole. Massive. And so when you're comprising a stack, what I'd encourage you to think about here is not to go out and try and find all these services and learn from them and, they're all going to compete with each other and overlap. Think about the domains that you need. Think about what your CMS is going to store, what it's going to serve. Think about your e-commerce software, like Commerce Tools, for example. Think about Algolia. Algolia can power a massive amount of a website. So kind of segment that. In which parts will one thing do? And then go into buckets and try and form a stack of technologies and see what the ROI is of that stack. Think about it as a whole. This is what the Mac Alliance is quite good for if you haven't heard of it. It's a consortium of kind of technologies, services, and partners which are very good at, Mac is an acronym, I'm not going to go through it now, but yeah, you'll learn about it if you haven't already, and it's very good at it. It includes Headless, of course. But it helps you choose a consolidation of technologies that achieve your goal, and then you can swap them out as you need to. So consider the stack first as a whole, otherwise you're going to get drowned in the weeds. That's it, folks. I've tried to be quick, concise, and hopefully as helpful as possible. I do hope it was. But I would love to chat to you. It's Matthew Foyle on Twitter, obviously on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at matthew.foyle@algolia.com, or we can just chat in the live chat. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.